instead of using words sad or defiant, just having a hard time coping with transition, just learning it all as I go along and allowing him to be my teacher.
Whether you're the mother of a child with autism or a BCBA who works with children with autism, it impacts us differently. This is what autism means to me as a mother and as a BCBA. I'm Dominique, a board-certified behavior analyst, well-versed in applying ABA techniques to our everyday parenting lifestyles. And I'm a mom. More specifically, I'm a mother of a child with autism. If you are a proud parent of a child with autism or special needs, aspiring to become a BCBA, or just looking for some positive parenting tools to add to your toolbox, you're in the right place.
Hello to all of you positive parents. I'm Dom, the BCBA mom, and welcome back to my channel. So today, in honor of Autism Awareness Month or Autism Awareness Day, which is something we just celebrated, I would like to dedicate this video to discussing and providing a little more insight on what autism means to me as a mother, as a BCBA or a clinician. Sometimes it's very important to compartmentalize the two, and sometimes they just bleed into each other. Not one perspective is better than the other. I think they both rely on each other for a lot of main reasons. The parent's perspective and the clinician or the BCBA's perspective doesn't always align. They don't always know what the other person is thinking about the same situation. So this is my opportunity to disclose my personal experience. Yes, I am a mother of a child with autism. Yes, I am a BCBA, and I have been working with individuals with autism since my very first job out of undergrad. So my perspective is very unique and very different from anyone else, but I think it encompasses a lot of what other people are thinking. So I'm just gonna take this opportunity to express what autism means to me as a mother, means to me as a BCBA or a clinician. So what is autism? Autism is a spectrum disorder. So the reason we emphasize spectrum is because autism can look or feel differently for each individual. So for some people, autism may only affect them in certain social situations or in certain academic situations. Any other time that they're not triggered by those environmental factors, then they may seem like a typical kid. Some individuals with autism, it affects them or it impacts them a lot differently. It impacts them in their language or in their body movement. They may have a lot of repetitiveness. There are many ways that autism can affect an individual. It just typically means they are experiencing this world in a unique way. It's unique from anyone else around them. It's unique from the way you experience your world. So when you just look at it that way, you kind of have a blank slate or of how you can interact with this person in order to get them to a place where they're able to function in this world and get everything that they need. So as a BCBA, we are taught to come in. We are very skilled on all of the terminology. We know how to identify a behavior. We know how to identify the function of it. We know how to come up with alternative behaviors. We know the names of everything. We know potential antecedent manipulations. We know consequence. We know all of this. We are taught how to come in, analyze a situation, and work to manipulate the environment to help an individual succeed. Just like that. We are very textbook. We are very by the book. It's actually kind of scary. As a mother, I don't know about you, but I didn't get a textbook. I didn't get a manual. I didn't get a professor say, okay, so during this stage of motherhood, this is what you should do. And during that stage of motherhood, that is what you should do. So as a mother, our teaching or our education usually relies on our traditions or what our mother taught us or what was done in our history or what was done in our family. Certain traditions may have been passed on. So that's typically where I got my template on how to be a mother. Not to mention, if you're a first-time mother, if you only have one kid and you don't have another kid to compare certain learning curves to, there are many ways that certain things like autism, especially if it impacts that individual differently, there are many ways that it can go unseen. A lot of people even call it the invisible diagnosis. Sometimes the signs are like boo, boo, boo. And sometimes the signs are so subtle and they only show up in certain situations. And you're like, I don't know. And you're just thinking about it and you're like, without anything to compare it to, without consulting with a doctor, without having instructions on it, it can go unnoticed for a long time. As a BCBA, we are taught that inquiring and getting to know the child's learning history is a really important part in creating a functional treatment plan. So understanding a learning history meaning you ask certain questions like, hey, in the past when this happened, what did little Johnny do? Or who's in little Johnny's life? Is his grandmother around? Is your husband involved? How does he interact with his brothers and sisters? A BCBA will ask these questions because we know it really adds to the validity. Is this treatment plan gonna work? Does it fit? Does it align with the kids' naturally occurring reinforcers? As a mother, learning history is everything. It's everything. It's all we know. It's all we've been accustomed to. So when we have someone who is asking us these questions, yeah, it sounds nice, but are you asking the right questions? Yeah, you want to know, are grandparents involved? Yeah, grandparents are involved. But what you really need to ask, do grandparents even agree with this diagnosis? Do they agree with the treatment plan? Are they actually going to follow through? You should be asking questions like, what are the natural contingencies when you go out, when you go over a cousin's house, when you go over a sister's house or a friend's house? What are the natural contingencies when you go grocery shopping in your neighborhood? You can ask, who else is a part of your life? Should we train aunt and uncle and cousins on the behavior plan too? Do they come in contact with him? How can we train your teacher? This is where it's important to adjust ABA to meet the culture, to meet the needs and the values of that particular family or that particular house. We shouldn't conform to what that BCBA or that clinician says it's normal. This is where you chime in on our values and our morals and say, hey, everyone in our family hugs. We're huggers. We show love through hugs. How can we work that in the treatment plan? Everyone in our family sings. How can we work that in the treatment plan? Everyone in our family goes to church, but he won't sit down longer than 10 minutes. How can we work on that goal just so he can feel like he is a part of the experience or a part of the family when we go and do things like that? So this is where you really, really want to get deeper and really, really become culturally competent in your client, because every client is different and every family, there is always more to learn about a family. You just have to listen. You have to ask the right questions and you have to listen. You have to understand what we value, what the child values. The child typically values the same things that their family values. Typically. There are also some cases where you may have to train the family, saying, hey, family, I know that this is a normalcy for you. I know this is a part of your culture, but this particular thing is extremely hard for your loved one. He just don't like hugging. I'm sorry. He does not like it. And then they have to loosen those rituals or routines in order to meet the needs of that family member, but that may be your job to advocate on their behalf in that way. It just all comes with a balance of working together for the common interest of the child. As a BCBA, we may make recommendations. We may say, hey mom, Johnny is up for re-evaluation. We need you to go to the neurologist and get an evaluation. We also need you to start with some speech lessons, maybe schedule a play group. You have to go get this prescription filled. So many recommendations that we make as clinicians, not thinking about that is not the main, what you're saying is not the main thing on the mom's mind at that moment. The mom could be thinking about speech therapy. That's another copay. That's another weekly copay. Now I have to go get an evaluation. Man, did we meet our deductible? Now I have to go on the other side of town and take him to this therapy at this time. And then we have to go over here and take him to this therapy. And when is he gonna get his homework done? And then when am I gonna have time for my other children? What am I gonna do with these bills? What about my job? But there are so many things that the mother is dealing with, that the parents are dealing with, that the BCBA or the clinician has no idea about. We can also find the balance and find a way to communicate our realistic goals and realistic concerns to each other. We can all work for the better good of the child. As a mother, there is no turn off. So for some of us, autism looks different. And for some people who don't know exactly what the characteristics or what the symptoms are, because there are so many, they can just see it as a naughty child. I've actually, I remember one time I shared with my family that my son had autism. They were just like, what? I just thought he needed a whooping. And in many families and many cultures and many places of the world, that's what is looked at, because there are no facial features physically showing you that, hey, my brain is processing things. Because they are unique, people look at them as they're bad. I've heard words like manipulative, bad, needy, defiant, all of this. As the BCBA, instead of using words like needy, I try to explain, well, they are just really seeking out some positive reinforcement, maybe in the form of attention or help. Instead of using words like bad or defiant, I think they're just having a hard time coping with change or coping with transition. Instead of using words like manipulative, no, they are just really strategic at meeting their needs by any means necessary. They're actually pretty brilliant. Or instead of using words like defiant, no, they just really, really want autonomy of their own schedule. But it took me a while to think this way. It took me a while. It took me to blend the two together. I didn't think this way just by experiencing autism as a mother or just by experiencing autism as a BCBA. Really, it took me finding a community. So let me tell you about the community I found. We had recently got a diagnosis, and I just wanted to learn everything about it as a mother. So I volunteered for this group, and it's called Autism on the Seas. I had no idea what was in store for me when I volunteered for this group. So with this group, we travel all over the world, and we are kind of like camp counselors for children and families of children with autism. So for this particular trip, there was a group within a group. So it was Autism on the Seas, but the group that we were with was Blue Skies Over Autism. And it was a group full of families of kids with autism. So we went to Honduras, we went to Cozumel and Belize. And during this trip, I was able to see, I did not see autism as a BCBA. I saw it in a different perspective as a mother. And what this group showed me was when you find a community you can really embrace the uniqueness of autism or the unique experiences that individuals with autism have. So this was a group that showed unconditional love. Whatever support that their child needed, they gave it to them. There was no shame, there was no guilt. And they specifically told us during this trip, I know you're a BCBA, but we are not doing ABA on this trip. We want our kids to just have fun. We are not redirecting their behavior. Everything they do during this trip, it's okay. And for the first time, somebody was like, everything that a person with autism does is okay. To see it in that perspective, you shouldn't try to change them in any way. They're special, they're unique for a reason. And sometimes it takes a while for you to see that because society tells you that being different is wrong, and that's not true. So it took a mixture of what I've learned in the books, what I've learned from traditions in my family and my culture, and me finding a new community to have this perspective of what I have now. Long story short, it shouldn't matter what autism means to me as a BCBA or what autism means to me as a mother. What should really matter is what autism means to my son or what it means to my client, the person who's actually experiencing it. We don't know. We can never know. Some people say, oh, this person is high functioning, this person is low functioning. We don't know. Just because they appear to be getting through this world seamlessly, typically just like everyone else, you don't know how it's affecting them. You don't know how hard it is for them to hold it together and not cry in front of their class, make wrong decision after wrong decision, and always having someone reprimand them and not knowing, like, why am I always in trouble? We don't know how their mind is processing things. And you just don't know the things that are different from them. Sensory things can be different. The way they hear things, the way they feel things. I was going through my son's laundry and I noticed that several of his shirts, they just have a hole. And I'm like, why do they have holes? And I realized all of the shirts, there's a hole where there was a tag. So in order for him to cope with the way that clothes feel on him or the tag, he would just remove it or pick it off. You know, it's different. It's not less, it's not strange, it's not wrong, it's not weird. It's just different. And once we can learn to embrace what it is that they're passionate about, what they're motivated about, everything will fall in line. Sometimes we just have to let go. We just have to let it die. What our image of what we thought motherhood was going to be like. Let go of what we thought our kid or would do at this age. Imaginary lifestyle. And really listen to our children and just celebrate their uniqueness. Autism to me is funny. He's so funny. No, Mom, please don't record me. I don't want to be on camera. No.
Yes, would you just take the picture?
Mom, no. Autism is. Let's just watch that part one more time. One more time. Isn't that funny? Okay, let's just watch that one more time. Okay. So it's important to see the full scope of things. It's important to understand the diagnosis, the medical terms, the behavioral jargon, the treatment plan. It's also important to understand the limitations and the needs of the parents, the people and the culture that's around him. But most importantly, it's important to really focus on person-centered. The person who you're serving, whether it be your son, your client, whomever, that is the person that really has the deciding factor on what's going to happen and what's not going to happen. Listen to your children. Listen to your client. Let them have more autonomy in the planning of their lives, because they have more insight than sometimes we give them credit for. I got linked with the Answer Inc. that's here in the Chicagoland area with Deborah Vines, and that was our first opportunity to just kind of share with the world what autism meant for us. It may be different for you. I'm embracing just learning it all as I go along and allowing him to be my teacher. So that's all that I have for you. I hope this was meaningful to you. I hope you got some really great tips. I know I let you in on a little bit more, was a little more emotional than I had planned. But if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button, share it with another clinician, another parent, and don't forget to like. That's it for now.
No, Sean